Namaskar viewers, welcome to this session of teleconference. As I had said in the session earlier that this would actually be in continuation with the earlier session. In the previous session from 12 o'clock to 12:45 we discussed with you modern world and introduction. We talked about some of the features of modern world and then we went into some details about the course modern world, which is an MA course. Which is part of an MA program in history. In this session, we will continue the discussion from where we had left it in the previous session. We'll complete the discussion and then we will discuss the making of the modern world. You see, after you've got a sense of what the modern world is all about, after you've got a sense of the theories of modern world, after you've got a sense of the themes of modern world, after you are in a position to identify the modern world, the next important crucial question is, what is the process in which this world is getting made? In other words, what is the process of the making of modern world? That is what, that is the theme to which this session is going to be devoted to. But before we take up the making of modern world, let me complete the discussion that was going on in the previous session. I was telling you that the first block of the course was is called Modern Theories of the Modern World, which talks to you about the ways in which something called a modern world had begun to be theorized, articulated, conceptualized, also anticipated. The second block, Modern World Essential Features, describes to you the modern world in terms of three of its main attributes: a new type of system, state system, a new type of economy, and a new type of social structure. We had stopped the discussion at a new type of economy, industrial economy, which is growth based, in which knowledge of ideas goes along with the knowledge of productive forces. Ideas feed into productive forces. Productive forces cannot grow without the knowledge component. So knowledge and industry, in a way, go along with each other. They complement each other. They feed into each other. Modern industry is based upon knowledge, and modern knowledge is actually like an industry. They begin to resemble each other, the two functions. That is a feature of the modern economy. Modern social structure. Modern world is also characterized by a very different type of social structure, new type of social structure. This social structure is based upon I'm sorry. This type of social structure is based upon secularization, decline of religious ecclesiastical authority, atomization, erosion of the communitarian structure, community life, and their transformation into individuals. That is called atomization and individualization. Urbanization, creation of a transfer of population from rural areas to urban areas, creation of new urban centers, and creation of large urban centers. All of these put together constitute the idea of urbanization. And much more. So secularization, urbanization, atomization, creation of a mass society, all these are features of a new type of social structure that also is a part of modern world, that also began developing from the 17th, 18th century onwards. So this block 2 talks to you about these essential features of modern world. The underlying idea, the underlying theme is that the three things which are being talked about: a new type of state system, a new type of economy, a new type of social structure. These are not independent of each other. These are not to be seen in isolation with each other. They are all interconnected. It is this interconnectedness of the three which is an important feature of the modern world. Why do we have a new type of state structure? Because we have a new type of economy. And this new type of economic life, this new type of economy cannot be governed and organized by previous types of state systems. You need a modern state system, which is representative, which is interventionist, which is intrusive, which is nationalist, which is national. Why do we have a new type of social structure? We have a new type of social structure because it's an inevitable fallout of the kind of economy we have. So a new type of economy, a new type of state, a new type of social structure, these are things which are all related to each other, which are all connected to each other. You have one because you have the other. So it is this interconnectedness which is a part of this block, which has been emphasized and which is an important thing to keep in mind. Block 3, modern states and politics. It now takes up the story of a new type of polity which emerges and which is a part of the modern world. This modern polity is characterized by, let's say, democracy. This modern type of politics is characterized by a welfare state, a new type of state which also undertakes welfare activities. This new polity is characterized by bureaucratization. Modern society and state systems are increasingly getting more and more bureaucratized. Modern political life is being bureaucratized. It seems the life is so complex that it cannot be organized around any other principle except bureaucratization. So bureaucracy enters the state, bureaucracy enters political parties, bureaucracy enters non-government organizations, bureaucracy also enters the trade unions. All types of political activities are performed through some kind of bureaucratization. And this modern life, modern polity is also characterized by nationalism. New types of ideologies and societies and forces. Nationalisms, nations and nationalism, creation of the nation-state system. So a sense of the modern polity, modern political system, modern political life can be had by focusing on democracy, bureaucratization, welfare state and nationalism, nations and nationalism. The four units of this block actually give you a sense of this new type of political life, new type of polity, which is a part of modern world. Next block, block 4, takes up the theme of economy in the same manner. What is this new type of economy? And what is the typology? What are the types of economies which develop in the modern world? Industrial economy, yes, but industrial economy is not just one. There are different types of industrial economies. So a certain range of the experiences of the modern world with industrialization. What are the ways in which, what are the different types of industrial societies, industrial economies which develop in the modern world? So the first unit is on commercial capitalism as a kind of background. Then there is capitalist industrialization, one type of industrialization which prevailed in Western Europe, North America, Japan and other parts of Europe later. Socialist industrialization, again a different type of industrialization, a different type of society which started in the 20th century in the Soviet Russia and increasingly included other societies of Eastern Europe, Cuba, North Africa, North Korea, which is an alternative to the capitalist industrialization, and underdevelopment as the type of economic development that happened in the colonial societies in the third world, in the societies of Latin America, Africa and Asia. So the whole range of economic experiences, socialist industrialization, capitalist industrialization and underdevelopment, that virtually covers the entire world, but it covers the entire world not through territories but through themes of economic activities. This is block 4. The next block is called Expansion of Europe, but it is actually the story of the making of modern world, the story that we'll be taking up shortly with you. It's just not enough to talk about the theories of modern world. Theories in themselves don't make the modern world. Theories in themselves, ideas, however superior, however important, however privileged, ideas in themselves are not capable of creating such large realities. Therefore, theories are important, but we have to also focus on the concrete specific processes through which a modern world was made and created. So block 5 is called Expansion of Europe, but it's basically the story of the making of the modern world. It's called the Expansion of Europe because the initiative in this process was taken by European societies, European countries. I will not speak much about it because this is actually the theme of this session, and I hope to come to it in a little while. After discussing a new type of polity, new type of economy, the making of the modern world, we then shift to the process of diplomacy, international relations. How are these nation states, how is this nation state system regulated? What are the mechanisms through which their interaction with each other is ensured? Now this is the story of block 6, the international system, the diplomacy, the nation state system, the international rivalries, the process in which we had many powers and in the 20th century, and then we had a bipolar world, and finally we have arrived at a unipolar world. The story of all that, the diplomatic story of the 20th, 19th and the 20th century. The 7th block is a story of revolutions. In this block, we look at revolutions entirely in a new way. Revolutions have generally seen as dramatic political events aiming at an overthrow of power, overthrow of the state and replacement of one type of state by another type of state. A typical example would be the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, also the Chinese Revolution, also the Indian Revolution, which is called the Indian National Movement. It was revolutionary. But this is one type of revolution, dramatic grand political events leading to a capture of state power, overthrow of removal from state power of one type of people and their replacement by a different people. There is also another type of revolution. Now this revolution is not so visible, but it's much more pervasive. It's a continuous revolution. It's not just a political revolution, it's a continuous revolution. It goes on, it's much more pervasive, it's irreversible, and its influences, its effects begin to manifest just a little later. I'm talking about technological revolutions. Revolutions in the field of technology, in the field of communication, in the field of medical sciences, in so many other fields, which are constantly happening, in which a discovery made in one part of the world begins to show its result in another part of the world. Innovations made in one part of the world are not just confined to that part of the world. Their benefits are actually seen across societies and across cultures and across territories. Now this kind of revolution is much more important. Therefore, in this block, the first two units talk about the first kind of revolution, the dramatic political grand events, and we have picked up French and the Russian as two specimens. The last two units of this block talk about the other type of revolution, the technological revolution, the knowledge revolution, revolution in the field of media, information, informatics, medicines, communications, transport, so much more. So by focusing on these two different types of revolutions and by picking up examples, we hope to give you a more comprehensive, a more holistic, a more wholesome picture of revolution, so that your understanding of revolution is also enlarged, so that our understanding of revolution is not just confined to the earlier understanding, in which revolution were all only seen episodically, were only seen as events, as episodes, and not as continuing processes. These revolutions, knowledge revolutions, information revolutions in informatics, in media, in medical sciences, these are continuing revolutions. They go on and on. They're still going on. They're all the time. They're in the modern world, in the history of the 19th and the 20th century, they're going on all the time at so many places. And their effect is cumulative. Entire mankind experiences the ill effects and the benefits of these types of revolutions. That's block 7 for you. The last two blocks, 8 and 9, in some ways are different from all the other blocks. So far, from block 1 to block 7, there is a story of progress, there is a story of development, there is a story of constant a growth and development in human energies, in human capacities, in human life. In some ways, it's a happy story. It's a story of modern life. It's a story of progress. Now, this happy life, obviously, there was a price to pay. And there was a huge price to pay. The last two blocks are actually devoted to this price that has been paid for this happy life, for growth, for the idea of growth, for development, for technological advancement, and so on. What is the price? Block 8 talks to you about violence and warfare. It may superficially seem that because of international monitoring, because of diffusion of power, because of diffusion of technology and so on, it may superficially seem that modern societies are less violent than the pre-modern systems, pre-modern societies, that modern world is less violent, that regenerative capacities of mankind and their cumulative effect have ensured that the world is saved from the disasters of violence. And because of man's mastery over nature, attempted mastery over nature, the natural disasters have also become less frequent. That's not true at all. It may seem superficially true. It would amaze you to know that the maximum number of killings and brutalities have been done in the 20th century than ever before. 20th century, which is the century of triumph of human spirit, which is the century of development, which is the century of progress, which is the century of innovations, scientific achievements, man traveling in the air, man going to space, everything. This, incidentally, is the century in which maximum human lives have gone, artificially. World War I, in which 9 million people died. World War II, in which 15 million people died, 35 million people were affected, maimed, genocides, bombings. That makes it the most brutal and bloody century of the entire human existence. It's important for you to take sense of that, to take cognizance of that. The most regenerative century, the century in which the creative powers of mankind have been unleashed in a very unbound, unlimited sort of way. Sky is the limit. In the same century, the destructive, the degenerative, the negative powers of mankind have also been unleashed in a very, very unlimited manner. So this kind of contrast is very important. For the first time, block 8 gives you a sense of that. It is for the first time that actually a total destruction of man's life becomes a possibility. It's not just a nightmare, it's actually a possibility, because we have developed so much. So we have developed, mankind has developed the instruments of its own destruction. The destruction of human race is actually a possibility. We are never very far from it. That sense has been given to you in this block. So violence, brutality, technological advance, employment of science and technology for destructive purposes, for the purposes of destruction of a whole human race, that is one major price that has been paid for this story of growth, for this development of growth. That's block 8. Block 9 talks about some other features of this development, some features which are inherent in this manner of development, which actually make us also question this whole model of development. Now the 3 digits that have been taken up here are environment, demography, and consumerism. Now these 3, the block is called dilemmas of development, the manner in which we have developed that make us raise certain questions, that there are certain issues on the basis of which we need to question this model of development. And these 3 digits are environment, environment and ecology, demography, and consumerism. So this is the entire course for you. First 7 blocks tell you one type of story. The block 8 and block 9 tell you the different story. They're in some ways meant to spoil the happy party, the happy story of growth and development and expansion and reaching new horizons. Well, so that's modern world, the course for you. This is the discussion that we had started in the morning. We focused on modern world, the phenomenon, modern world, the course, and then we said that we would now take up the making of the modern world. We have about 25 minutes or so. In this 25 minutes, let me briefly give you a sense of the making of modern world. I hope that by now you have got a sense of what modern world is all about, what it means, what are its features, how to identify it, where to find it. Now, but one question which is important at this stage is, how was this world made? Merely ideas and theories could not have made the world. Ideas are not capable of creating world. Material forces are. So what are these material forces? What are these processes? We will start our discussion of the making of modern world by raising one or two simple questions and then proceeding. One simple question is, when did the world start becoming modern? When was this process initiated? How was this process initiated? How did these currents of change start happening? I think it may seem like an easy question, because we said that we drew a line at the 16th century, which means that 16th century can roughly be treated as the time when a modern world started being made, or the process was unleashed in which went on to make the modern world. But it's not. The answer is not that simple. The answer about when did the world start becoming modern will have to vary from one society to another. I think if we keep Europe at the center of it, then obviously we get one type of answer. It has to be the 15th century. It has to be the Renaissance. 15th century, around the 15th century, 15th, 16th centuries. Certain things were happening in the 15th century which were symptomatic, which were reminders, which became catalysts to huge monumental changes that started unfolding in subsequent centuries. But if you take your focus away from Europe and go to other societies, then nothing of such importance happened in other places. If you focus, let's say, on Japan, then nothing of such dramatic consequences happened till the 19th century. If you focus on China or on India, or on what came to be called the Third World, then nothing of such dramatic consequences happened in the 15th century. Then the story will have to be shifted to the 18th and the 19th centuries, when the isolation of these societies began to be broken, when these societies began to be integrated to the world, when these societies began to be dominated by the conquering European countries and societies. What I'm trying to tell you is that though it does seem like a very easy question, the answer is not so easy. Answer is not so easy because the answer will have to be different for different societies. However, we will, for the purposes of convenience, take the 15th, 16th centuries as the starting point of this process. So what I'm now going to do is that we are saying that this process of the making of the modern world began to be unleashed around the 15th and the 16th centuries. Now, what happened in this period? And how did whatever happened lead to such monumental changes so as to change the entire world irreversibly and dramatically? That is the story that I'm going to talk about. I think the making of the modern world, the story, I just want to tell you a story now over the next 20 minutes, 18-20 minutes. Just listen to it like a story. I want to tell you a story in which three themes are very, very important. And if I cannot complete the story, please keep the themes in mind. 1. Integration. 2. Affluence. And 3. Domination. Modern world became modern world because of these three things. Because of a particular type of integration, because of affluence, unprecedented affluence, wealth generation, and thirdly, because of a particular unique type of domination profile of this world. I will try and briefly take up these three things for you, and I hope to be able to complete it, but if I cannot, then I will have to stop midway. What do we mean by integration? What we mean is that from 16th century a certain process started, a process of trade, a process of conquest, a process of settlement, in which different parts of the world increasingly got integrated with each other, and the isolation of these pockets was broken down, was eroded. Now, how did this happen? Let us say arbitrarily we can pick up one event and treat it as a huge catalyst for major changes that would take place later. This event may be, and this year may be 1492, and the event is the discovery of America by a Portuguese sailor, Christopher Columbus. Now, this is something all of you have heard about. Columbus was a Portuguese sailor for a certain political developments. He wanted a new route to India, and he felt that going eastward there were political troubles, and he knew that the world is round, that the earth is round. This had become a part of the knowledge, and so he felt that if he went westwards, then he could find an alternative route to India. So he traveled westwards and he came to a society. He thought this was India. In reality, as you know, it was not India, it was Americas, the two continents, as a result of which he is considered to have discovered a new continent. And it is for this reason that the people of that continent began to be called Americans, Indians, Red Indians. They were called Red Indians because Columbus thought he had discovered India, and they were Indians. Now it became clear that this was not India, this was a new continent. Now this single event unleashed a whole range of monumental changes. How? Once the route to America was discovered from this shore of the Atlantic Sea, then the Atlantic societies, Atlantic Europe, by that I mean the countries of England, France, Portugal, and Spain, they discovered a new route to America. They therefore started traveling towards Americas, which is also called Latin America, which is called, you can call it South America, Latin America, Americas, the lower part, the southern part of the American continent, or whatever, we are calling it the Americas. Now they started landing in the Americas. They started landing in Americas, some because of for trade, some in search of minerals and resources like gold and silver, and some to spread Christianity. So the reasons may have been different, but they started settling there. Now, and in Mexico and other places, these areas began to be, huge silver mines were there, so these areas began to be explored by these Europeans, by these Atlantic Europeans, with the help of local labor there. Now, the conditions were very harsh. Working conditions were difficult. In any case, these were unfamiliar terrains, these were unfamiliar jobs. New types of diseases developed, chicken pox, influenza, as a result of which lots and lots of people began to die, either as a result of harsh working conditions or as a result of diseases. Now, the story of deaths, we do not have exact figures, but one figure is that from the mid 16th century till the end of 16th century, the population of Mexico was reduced to 1/3. 2/3 of people of Mexico died as a result of diseases and harsh working conditions. Another estimate is that population was reduced from something like 25 million to 0.5 million. Huge number of people died in these explorations, which created a shortage of labor. Now, where is the labor to be procured? Labor for working in the mines. Now, this labor was going to be procured from African continent. So, slaves from Africa began to be exported to the Americas, to the American continent. All this is happening under the supervision and leadership of the Atlantic European societies, the Dutch, the Spaniards, the Portuguese, and a little later the English and the French. Now you can see that certain integration has already started happening. Now these slaves from Africa begin to be exported to Americas, to the continent, to work in their silver minings. There is an estimate that something like 10 to 13 million African slaves were thus taken from Africa to America to work in the mines. And they were all employed in the silver mines. Lots and lots of this silver, this begins to then come to Europe. So there's a tripartite kind of an arrangement. Europeans going to Latin America to work in the mines, to own these mines. They also go to Africa, get hold of slaves from there, 13 million slaves. These slaves come to America, work in silver mines, get hold of silver. This silver comes to Europe. Something like 51,000 metric tons of silver comes from Americas, from Latin America to these European societies. It is estimated that at that point, till the 18th century, this was 81% of the total silver produced in the world. Now it increases immensely to the wealth of these European societies. Now what do they do with this wealth? They use this wealth in their trade with Asia. This wealth greatly facilitates their trade with Asia. So they begin to buy Asian textiles, silk, spices, indigo, and so much else, for which there is great demand in the European market. So you can see that there are 4 big continents that are being integrated in a single process of trade and conquest and settlement. 3 things are happening. Europeans are going to Americas to work to extract silver from the mines. Slaves from Africa are being procured to work in these mines. And the British these European powers are also creating a system of levy, a system of tribute in the Asian seas. Their trade with Asia is not of an equal nature. It's not the kind of trade between 2 equal partners. The Dutch begin to appropriate the Asian seas, so that whoever is traveling there has to pay a certain tribute to the Dutch. The Portuguese follow later. And the British create the biggest tribute system in Asia by actually conquering territories and acquiring the right to tax those territories. I am referring obviously to British control over India by the East India Company. What happens in this control? In Bengal, they come and they get the right to extract revenue. Now this has tremendous implications. It's a very important thing. What this means is that now the British do not have to use the bullion which is being procured from Americas in order to purchase Indian stuff, Indian things, the textiles, the silk, the spices. Now they can use the money generated from India only to buy these things. This money is being generated by acquiring the power to tax, by the revenue which is being paid by the Indians. Now this means that there is a trade, there's an international trade going on in which everything, all the wealth from all the sides is flowing into Europe. The silver is coming from Americas, the slave labor from Africa, the Indian products, the silks and the spices and the textiles and the indigo, all that comes from Asia and other parts, India and other parts of Asia, and all of it goes into Europe. Europe does not have to pay anything very much for this. All this adds considerably and tremendously to the wealth of Europe. The control of India is, for this reason, very, very, very important. This is the time when ideas of mercantilism are prevalent in Europe. The ideas of mercantilism are that bullion, gold and silver, they constitute the wealth of a nation and we should protect it. And the Europeans are able to protect it. They are able to protect their bullion, they are able to protect their gold and silver by buying the Indian stuff, Indian foods, Indian things with the help of Indian money. This is the process of integration. Now the important thing about this integration is that it's not an equal integration. It's not an integration of an equal kind. It's an integration of a completely unequal kind. Latin America is the loser because it's losing its silver, its bullion. Africa is a loser because it's losing its slaves. Its slaves are being employed in a process elsewhere. Asia is also a loser because now Asian manufactured goods are being bought with the Asian money, which is being procured by the imperial powers. So this is the process. This process of integration is an important feature of important part of the process in which modern world is being made. Let me quickly, now we've got about 5, 6, 7 minutes left. Let me focus on affluence and domination. What do we mean by affluence? By affluence we mean by that a new system of wealth generation comes into being from 18th century onwards. If I were to explain affluence to you in one word, I would say industrial revolution. It's a word all of you have heard about. Industrial revolution, which happens for the first time in England, and England already is prepared in a big way for an event of this kind, because England is already a beneficiary of the process of integration. European societies as a whole are beneficiaries. Western European societies as a whole are beneficiaries of this process of integration, which goes on from the 16th century till the 18th century. Now, along with this, add to this the industrial revolution that happens in England. What happens in the industrial revolution? If I could just focus on 4 things. Firstly, a new type of factory system in which land, labor, technology, all of which are put at one place. All factors of production are put at one place to maximize production. 2, discovery of steam. Now, discovery of steam obviously is a very important feature. Steam engine is actually a symbol, marker of the industrial revolution. It facilitates a whole range of new activities, new economic activities, which lead to mass production and which also cut the cost of production. So steam, which is employed in the mines, which is employed in the steamships, which is employed in the railways, in communications. So it's also a communication revolution. Factory system, steamship, mechanization of the textile industry, application of science and technology to all sectors of industry, all industries, but to begin with it happens in the textile industry, which gives England the superiority over the world, the mastery over the world. And fourthly, the revolutions in the shipping and railway transport, revolutions in transport. So a new factory system in which all factors of production are put together for maximization of output, introduction of steam, invention of steam, 3, mechanization of the textile industries, and fourthly, the beginnings of a new type of transport, the steamships and the railways. Now these 4 things put together enormously increase the capacity of productive capacities of mankind. There are many indicators of this influence, which I will not go into. I've just talked. I will also not go into the process of this affluence. What is the process in which this affluence happens? But it would suffice for you to keep in mind to focus on these 4 things: steam, factory system, mechanization of textile industry, and transport and a revolution in the transport, shipping and railways. These 4 put together. There are many manifestations of this kind of affluence, social manifestations, cultural manifestations. One social manifestation is urbanization, which I talked about. Now urbanization basically means that a large part of population, because industrialism requires people to work in industries in the cities at one place, as a result of which large chunks of population begin to be transferred from the villages, from the rural areas to the urban areas. To give you just some statistics, in US in 1800, United States of America, only 6% of the people lived in cities. By 1975, this figure had gone up to 80%. 80% of the people were living in cities. In all parts of the world, in varying proportions, there was a transfer of population from the rural areas to the urban areas. Number of cities with a population of 1 million, that increased. In 1900, the number of cities with a population of 1 million, that is to say with a population of 10 lakhs, was 16 only. By 1985, this number had increased to 250. Size of the cities increased enormously. To give you a figure that might interest you, the population of Delhi in 1941 was 9 lakhs. Now figure out for yourself, at this moment, this population is about 1 crore and 20 lakhs. Figure out for yourself the extent of increase. So more and more population shifting from villages to cities, more and more cities coming into being, and large cities coming into being. Likewise, the population of the world also increases. To just give you one figure, we are running short of time. The population of the world was around 500 million, about 500 million around in mid-17th century. This population has now increased to 6 billion. That means a many-fold increase has taken place in the population. Some of it is obviously related to the decline in the mortality rate, and that is related to certain economic developments, that is related to the affluence that has come in the world. The only thing that needs to be kept in mind about this influence, we are running short of time, I might remind you, is that there is tremendous unevenness in this affluence. Nonetheless, on the whole, keep focusing on the globe, there has been a tremendous affluence. So today we talked about a process of integration, gave you the story of integration. We talked about affluence. Now as a result of the unevenness of affluence, a particular type of domination profile comes into being. The world comes to be dominated, it becomes vertical, it comes to be dominated by Europe and America, and that domination continues. The story of domination is very, very interesting. I'm afraid we do not have the time to go into it, but it suffices to say that we need to focus on 3 things: integration, affluence, and domination, to get a sense of the process in which modern world is made. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to us.